Hello and welcome to this Community Live event. So this is something we've been wanting to do for years actually, and the point of this is to have it very community driven. So we'll have live chats and we'll kind of engage with you on the chat as well. So if you have any cool things you want to talk about, we'll just take it up and we'll have a look in ClickLearn at what we can do. So you may want to, when you watch the stream, you may want to just maximize your window for YouTube instead of full screening it, because if you full screen it, you will lose the ability to chat. And we'd love for you to chat with us. So this is meant as a kind of a informal engagement where the top priority is actually the engagement with you guys. So if we have one of our topics that we have on our lists that is less interesting with whatever you post, we'll just do yours instead. So yeah, we'll just take it as it comes, okay? So just to see if the chat works, if you could just type a 1 if you're using ClickLearn for Dynamics, and type 2 if you're using it for IFS, and type 3 if you're using it for something else like Salesforce or SAP or whatever. It'll be great to see you engage with us there. Nice, awesome to see. All right, well, Joachim, can you tell us a little bit about why we're doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm super excited to be here, Morten, and thanks for inviting me. And when I got the invitation, I immediately said yes, because this is something, as you said, that we have wanted to do for a while. And the thing is really, I like the idea of leveling up. So both leveling up on our author side, but I think that we at ClickLearn, we need to level up with our community as well. And that means that we are going to bring a whole new game into our community platform. Our universe platform, where we are training our authors and where there's a lot of content, and we'll probably be name dropping some of that content in the chat as well. So if you're curious about some of the things that Morten is showing today, there's a good opportunity to look through the chat and look that we actually have some modules on that as well inside the universe. But we are hoping that we can make it far more engaging on the community, and we have an entire team around us with Snea, who's not present today, who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting on making sure that we get closer with our customers and that they have a voice inside ClickLearn.
Awesome, Joachim. Well, to kick us off today, I will be talking a little bit about publishing first. So I'm going to show some of the publishing options, the versionings, things like that. So let me just share my screen. When you publish with ClickLearn, of course, you need to, once you're done creating your work instructions, you make a structure. In the structure, you'll have the opportunity to use segmentation as well. So in here I have, this is basically how my portal looks. I've got some areas, business areas here, like marketing, sales, and so forth, and I have some documents and stuff like that that we've also added. what I can do instead of just straight up publishing that, I could make some segmentation. So I'll come in here and say, create new segment. Let's go ahead and make a sales one. And the way it then works is that I can then choose, if I expand everything, I can then choose in this entire portal down to the dividers and everything, exactly what people are supposed to see, right? So I could say people are allowed to view all this stuff, including this one document inside HR. No one in sales has accident at work, so they can't see that. So we'll go to advanced and we'll just flag sales, right? What then happens is that you can see now that there's a segmentation now for sales. So if I click on preview, I can then choose segmentation and say, hey, how does it look for the sales guys? If I had saved it, it would show, but that's basically how the segmentation works. Later on, when we talk about the User Adoption Center and User Experience Panel, this can also be mapped to specific user roles, which is super awesome. So a user just logs into their CRM, in my case, and since they have the sales role, they will see whatever I told them they're supposed to see. They're not doing anything special. They just open the program and then they are presented with whatever I chose, right? So another cool thing for publishing is the ability to do versioning. So once I've published, I will have versions down here, and if I wanna have a look at the different versions that I used to have, or if I accidentally mess the whole thing up, I can quickly revert down here by clicking one of the versions that I want, and I can just say restore version, then we're good to go, right? Furthermore, there is of course also the ability to build different SCORM packages using our publishing. You can design those in the template itself. If you have enabled SCORM in your publishing template in here, if you have enabled SCORM in here, it will then produce the package, and you will then get a link that you can use to download the individual SCORM packages, and you can bundle them into your system. Or you can also use what's it called? iframe video links directly from the portal page to have like a live link, but we can also look at that later on. So for the publishing options themselves, we're moving on to advanced publishing now. I want to talk a little bit about the different types of things you can choose here, right? So if you start the guide, you'll be given the opportunity to set up whatever you want in terms of the publishing. So we do have, of course, our content cloud. This is the most easy to use. You're basically hosting it with us in Azure. And then you can define access rules and stuff like that to the content. But of course, we also support all kinds of other things, right? You can still host it with us, and then you can load it inside of SharePoint, for example, with an app that we've made it's called the ClickLearn SharePoint app. That then encapsulates it inside of a frame so that you load it directly from the portal. But I mean, the end users, they just think that they see it on SharePoint, right? With CRM and BC, we have specific apps available that you add. So there is a solution for CRM, and there is an extension for BC that you add. That allows you to do contextual help. So that, let's say that people are on account and they click on the help button, they will then see all the work instructions that traverses the account form, right? The same thing with BC. So you can also choose on-premise. When you do choose on-premise, you'll be given the opportunity to either host it on a local file server. So that could be like IIS or CentOS or something like that. Or you can host it on a flash drive or a DVD if you wanted to. Basically, it gives you a full website ready to deploy. You can also, of course, if you toggle these two together, you will be building an old school ASPX file for SharePoint. So these are ASPX files that you can then deploy if you have like an on-premise SharePoint. I'm just going to let this production run real quick, and then we'll look at some of the permission settings that we can choose. Yeah. Will that produce? And then I'll, while it's producing, I'm going to talk a little bit about the advanced editing while it's producing, okay? In the advanced editing, editing module on the universe, there is something about how how the connectors are being built when you, like the connector text here. For example, click on the item accounts. How that's being made is, it comes from our templating system. You can, of course, edit that. Up here, you can see what we've captured from the system. You can see that the text is accounts. There's also a tooltip in CRM called accounts. So that's when I hover the mouse over, you can see that it says accounts. You can even see it on the screenshot here because I didn't replay this recording. What you can do with that is basically you can type whatever you want, and then you can use the system values down here to ensure that whatever you type, if you were to change language here, I would still be referencing the same system value that I grabbed from the system, right? In the templating system, you can just quickly have a look at how it's built. So basically the way they're being built is that you have a mouse action that can be click on, double click, mouse move, drag, drop, whatever. Then you have the type of item, and these comes from our connector specific entries down here. In this, you can see this is a list item. So it will say click on the item and then the value from the system, right? If I had added more languages here, you would see it go through other languages with the same kind of setting. If I don't like that it says the item, I can just change it, and they will then change it globally for everything, right? There are other things mentioned in the advanced editing. There is a little bit about the data editor, but I'm going to skip that because Jenna is doing replays, and she will dive into that later. So they will be much more fitting for a replay session. We also have a flow editor. I don't know how many of you have been using the flow editor, but here you can do branching. So basically the way that branching works is that it will pop up with a question, and the user will be asked, hey, do you want to, let's say, do you want to create a new account? Yes or no? And depending on what they choose, I can then flag different steps with a yes or no value. So the video will pause, it will read the question to the user, and then they have to actually click yes or no, for example. You can also do like multiple choice, single selection things. Mostly what I see is people just use yes or no, or they type something else, right? So the question could be, are you making a government record or a private one? Private one, government. So you can type something else, right? And you can then flag up all the steps with the specific answer you want. So depending on what they choose, they will then see that, right? So if I went in here and said, do you want to create a new account? Yes, no. If they click no, I could just skip the whole instruction, right? Then it just exits because apparently they don't want to create one, right? So you could do things like that. If you do dive into branching, I'd recommend that you take a sheet of paper and you draw the whole flow on it first, because it can become very hard to overcome the whole branching just in your head. So it's nice to have a picture. And you can even take it a step further and add a picture in your recording of the branching so people know what to expect as they go through the branch, right? So they know what it means if they say no to a specific question, yeah? So we also have some other cool things. We have something called summarization. This is some of our new AI features. So what I could do is that I could highlight this whole recording here, or parts of it. Let's see. Let's do just the account name, and let's do a summarization of that. Then we'll have an AI summarize it, and we can say, we want a paragraph, bullet list, however you want it to look, and how long do you want it to be? And of course, you can adjust how creative it is. I enjoy the creative responses because they're a little bit more lively. I'll just click on summarize, and then it then tells us to update the account name, click on blah, 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 and enter Morten store. So it kind of, it just kind of summarizes the whole thing. You can use that as a summary in the end to kind of give people an idea of, what did we do in this whole work instruction. Or you can do it up top if you want to say, hey, what are we going to go through in this work instructions? Are you on the right one, right? Do you want to close it and find the other one? We also have another tool called PowerPoint Narration. In this one, I can add PowerPoint slides, and I can then have AI generate some really cool text just from the slides that I've added. It works super well. I can do some really cool things with it. Let me just see how far that production has gotten.
I see we have some questions often too.
Oh, sorry. I have something on top.
Should we take those questions?
Yeah, let's see. So the question here, it says, I'm just gonna make it go like that. So which steps can I take to resolve a content not found during the publishing process to ensure that our portal is ready for our upcoming launch? Right. If you get a content not found, it can be a few different things, right? So what can sometimes happen is that there is something wrong with the actual content file itself. So basically, when we produce the file, there could be something wrong with the actual web page that it is hosted. So what you could do then is you would come into, let me just save this. You want to cancel? Yes. When you come into your published content in here, the way you could fix a quote-unquote broken web page that is hosting it, that's why maybe it cannot be found. What you can do is that you can come into your published content here, click on the three dots next to the one that you have problems with, and then you click on, let's see, it cannot be that one. Let's do it here. There's something called Remove Analyzer. That will often solve that specific problem. So what this does is that when you produce with ClickLearn, let's say you produce a big shelf, 50 recordings, a bunch of Word documents and stuff like that you've added. It can take, let's say, an hour to produce. But we have a little analyzer for each language that says, okay, which changes, it tracks changes in the document, right? So let's say I go in and change my Word template and I reproduce, or and add a recording and reproduce. It will then only produce those changes and then merge it into the existing content. That's basically what the analyzer does. So instead of it taking an hour to produce, then it takes maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, however big of a change you have, right? So I would click Remove Analyzer, and I will just type a reason, content not found. This goes in an email to our developers, so we can see when someone removed the analyzer, then we can go and have a look at what happened here, why was there a problem, right? So we can kind of investigate it as such. So I will remove the analyzer, and I will just produce it again. If you keep having problems with your content not being found, send a mail to support, and we will try to figure out what's going on, because it can also be that somehow you're using an illegal character, which causes the URL to break, so the URL cannot be shown. That can also happen. Or there's something wrong with something that you've added. It's corrupted in such a way that it corrupts the whole thing. That's all. It does happen. It's not common, but it does happen. For which reason it's good to have the ability to fall back to a previous version until we fixed it for you, right?
Can I ask about, because there's another question in here around the yes/no answers, and I know that there are, it is possible to do flows on 4 and 5 different answer possibilities, right?
Yes.
All right. So the short answer to that question is yes.
Well, there's a short and a long answer. So you can have we can have multiple choices, right? You can also have a question that sparks another question, which is also a cool way to do things. For example, in the example we just had, where I said, do you want to create an account, yes or no? If they select no, I can have another question that says, are you sure? Yes, no. So that is definitely a possibility. And yes, you can also have more choices, so that you have a complex branching where an item will appear if you select the correct combination of choices in the other questions. So yeah, it can be done.
Yeah, and we might add as well that if you go into using the flow and you're using the replay feature, things become a little more difficult, because if you have separate branches that take you out, for instance, in 2 different order forms, it's very difficult to automatically replay, and that means that there will be a little more manual work involved in that, and some breakpoints and things like that in order to get the actual replay to work on top of that. But the interactivity of this is absolutely marvelous. And if you restrain from having something that basically takes you into different parts of the application depending on where I click, then the automatic replay should function just as it normally does.
Definitely. And the questions, they pop up in the assist. So if they execute the live assistant, that helps them through the live system where to click and stuff, that will also stop and ask them questions. And of course, in the video, like I mentioned earlier, it does not appear in the written documentation or on the web page. We don't have a way to put it in there. So what I would suggest instead is that you make some notes, and you can then also when you do segmentation when you do sections in your recordings, like you saw I had in this one, right? Let's see. Well, when I had okay, this is the account name one. Then you have some sections down here. You can type a bracket next to it to kind of indicate that it's part of this and that flow. And you can, of course, also have the diagram that explains the flow, so people know what path to take, even though they're in text form, right? Let's say they print out the PDF. Even though they do that, they should still be able to follow a branching structure, right? But that's something you would have to design in here. Yeah, I will gladly help you try to do that if you like, no problem. Let me just go through the publishing options real quick, because that's where we were here. So now it's done producing, and then we publish, right? So I'll click on next. Sorry, in here I have the ability to go public or private. If it's public, then anyone with a link can access it. If it's private, then I can define which domains can access it with their ClickLearn logins, or my preferred option is to just add a sign-in provider, being, for example, Office 365. So now anyone who has an Office 365 or Azure account can now use from clicklearn.com or for imany.net. These 2 domains can then log in, right? And I can, of course, add other domains as well, and they will then be able to authenticate. This is very nice if I want to secure access to my content, if someone accidentally leaks the link to someone that they shouldn't or whatever. And also it enables me to track people if I have enabled tracking during my publishing options, right? So I can see who's doing what and how they're doing all the tests and stuff like that. When you do go about and publish a deployment project like this, it's pretty nice to show that people are using it and which format are using, which is the most popular, like where should we focus our attention, right? Are people using the PowerPoints a lot? Maybe we should figure out why that is, because it's interesting. So I'll just click on next, and I can then click on publish, right? Go. All right. So now my content is published. So yeah. If you have a more, I see that often, if you have a more, if you have a desire to control the access to the content more than we offer here, we suggest that you publish it to your own web server, and then you can define the access the policies yourself, right? We do sometimes see that people want to do something special, so you're totally welcome to do that. Now my content is live, and you also see that the sales segment I did, they have their own specific link. Let's go ahead and click that. We'll copy it, and let's come into here. So all I see now is the ability to authenticate with Office 365. I can't really mess it up. I cannot type something wrong. So yeah, it's very familiar for the people who's using it, right? And then we have our processes, and yeah, that's my content. Jenna, I'm going to throw the ball over in your court if you're ready.
Sure. Yeah, so I didn't introduce myself yet. My name's Jenna. I'm a customer success manager here at ClickLearn. And I thought, unless any other questions come through, I would love to talk about translation, replay, localization, because I think it's useful to get usage out of the tool no matter what phase of your journey you're in. And a lot of the translation pieces are really low-hanging fruits, especially if you're going for localization. And I'm just getting a lot of feedback in my headset here. Let me just see if I can fix this. Okay, that's fine. So what I'm going to do is, Morten, can you put my screen up? You've done so, I see. Okay, so what we can do is take a look at the content I have here. And this is just a simple recording I've made. I've added in a few steps here, and it's pretty straightforward. Right now, I just have my content in English. So a lot of the customers that I'm talking to, companies are always changing, growing, getting new teams, all of that stuff. And it's so nice, whether you're starting your documentation journey or you're really far along, just to be able to add in additional languages at any point in time. And I think a lot of times people expect this is a big ask. And I mean, it can be in some cases, but in general, there's a lot you can do pretty much in one session in ClickLearn that will make your content a lot more accessible and sticky for your team. So I'm just going to jump out of this now. Just wanted to show it in English. And I'm going to head into our language settings here. And I'm going to add in another language here. We can just go for French, perhaps. And I'll put in German here as well. And what I'm talking about first is focusing on the localization of the text you've added in as an author. So anything you put in to give your extra help or context to the user. So points that aren't just clicking here, it's a deeper instruction. So what I'm going to do is do a mix and match here. In my German language, I've changed my user interface to English because we often see a global organization will have one system language they use, one company language, but they of course want to support teams that might have a different language. So I've added that in. I'll give it a save, and we can just take a quick look at it here. We can see that in our German one, this text is already translated, and this is my before. I know we're not all the way there. We have English text here. And what I want to do, just to make this ready for my German team who might be using their system still in English, I can just hop into this localization area here. We can see varying levels of progress. And I'm just going to hop into German and open up that recording and press auto translate. And then any text I've added as an author will be translated. If you're a native speaker, you can hop in here, make whatever changes. It's never going to give you issues, so you can just get things how you want here. Although it is quite good level translation, there might be small wordings you want to add in. So just by doing that, all I would need to do is give this a republish and ship it off to my German team, and now they'll have a little bit more utility with the content you've already made. Another thing that we can jump into is, of course, the scenario where you might want to have full translation. So you have your German team using the English system. Maybe you have your French team and they actually have a French version of your system. So that is where the replay element can come in. It's not just for translations, it's for any scenario where you want to update your screenshots. But in this case, we can do a translation scenario. So I'm just going to bring up my CRM system here. And I'm going to put this into French, like so. And then I'm going to say replay. And my option for replay will be English and French because I could use this for update purposes as well. So maybe I just need to recapture my English environment now that we're on the latest version of the tool. And I'm just going to click next here. And we have our environment in French and we have our recording over here. And I'm just going to click play. And it's going to tell me not to touch my keyboard, my mouse, and we're going to see it click through and recapture these screenshots. And because it's language agnostic, it's going to be just looking for the object IDs as it moves through. We should have it kick in here in a second.
While it's kicking in, Jenna, how difficult is replay? Because we normally get a lot of questions around this, and I know that this is one of the areas that we are improving on as well on our product team. But how difficult do you think that replay is? Is it and on a scale from 1 to 10?
That's a good question. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 6. So we have a level of difficulty here. There's a lot of power in the tool as well. So I think it's very much something that's worth your time to invest into and get a firm understanding of how the tool is working. So we can see here, it's gotten almost all the way through our process and it's telling me that it's looking for this account type. And perhaps my options are different in here. So I can see that field. I'm going to tell it to just go ahead here. If we had detected any sort of change, we could easily add in a missing step in the event of an update or anything like that.
And the biggest problems that you normally get, because you get to speak to clients every day around this,
Yeah.
what are the biggest obstacles and where do you typically see the errors?
I think where we would run into issues could be if the data has changed. So if you're running a replay and you made the recording a year ago and that sample data no longer exists, I'm just going to jump out of this and show you in the data editor. Maybe. There we go. And we can take a look at the data layer here because that is one of the most common issues. So if I was to replay this and I didn't have, let me just see, this is a better example here. If I didn't have this customer in my system anymore, it's going to struggle at that point in time. So you want to make sure that you take a look at your data before and update it. So if I'm looking up this customer specifically, it's not there anymore, I can change it. I can have it look for new information. I can tell it just to set the one that's in focus or a predefined row. So a lot of options to tackle that. The other thing with major stumbling block is if you've skipped steps in your recording. So that makes it hard for the replay to follow the path that you've laid out.
Right.
But that's a good question.
All right.
There is a comment here on replay. There are 2 questions. There is one on replay here. I'm just gonna highlight it real quick.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. And that's a very common scenario, right? Especially when you're selecting data. What we normally do when you select a row of data inside, let's say, a columned list view of some sort, is that we actually say that it needs to match the entire thing. And that means that it matches on all fields. Now, this can be disabled inside the data editor, so you match on, let's say, what is the primary unique key of that particular entry, like an order number or a line number. So this is a common scenario.
Yeah.
I have a bit of construction work here in the background, so I know there's hammering noises. So I'll turn off my mic.
Nice.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's the process that you can go through in order to get those screenshots translated. I didn't complete my replay there, but that's okay. We have our German, our English, and then with one more shot, I'll have my French translations there. And I don't know if we have any other question come through.
We do. We have two. I'm
Okay.
going to do this one first because it relates to replay, and then we'll do the other one after. So, yeah, this is a scenario we see often. If people are, we see this often with I'll call them service providers or vendors or whatever. So they might be using a system that has very little data in there, or it's, for example, it's such a new version, a beta version of let's see, BC, like a beta wave that we don't have yet. So we can't capture the data from the actual fields that you're clicking. So all the clicks go through, but we now will be able to grab the actual technical information behind it. That can be a thing. So in these cases, once you come back to them, we will have developed support for it, and we can then replay and everything is fine. But we will sometimes see that the support at the time of recording was spotty. I mean, it's not like your recordings will lose the data over time. That does not happen. I just gotta make sure that it's right. Yeah. So.
I can say that from the product team, they look into two things whenever they're doing a new version of, let's say, BC, F&O, IFS, whatever platform that you guys are on. And the one thing is that we automatically, without any transition, are capable of actually replaying the data. And that means that they build it in at the core level into our connector. If that's not doable, then they do an update process, which is also a common thing. And that means that you can basically take your recordings and then update them to the next version. With many of the vendors, we already have established collaborations. That means that we can go out on day zero and be ready. And with a lot of vendors, there's also, we are relying on that being released. So if you're in on early products, we're not there yet, or we are catching up and doing that as fast as we human possibly can. And I recommend everyone that's experiencing these types of replays is to reach out to our support. That's why we're there. And they can normally help you get started as well.
Definitely, Joachim. There are two more questions. Jenna, I was hoping, since you're on you have the screen shared, maybe you can just quickly do this one from Robert.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it zooms too far and I lose the context of where I am on the screen. To change the zoom level of the thumbnails. Yes, so you can do that. Probably the fastest way to do it is to go on your publishing template here. And in this entity button that's kind of tucked away, recordings, you can change the instruction screenshot size overall. I'm hoping that that's what you're referring to there. So if you actually want to apply a global change, this is the easiest way to do it. That will be all screenshots in this project.
And I can tell you that I have a little bit of a gift from product side as well. So this will be doable also inside the editor on a local level from the next release.
Oh, that is a gift.
Nice.
Thank you.
Without grouping?
I know. Yeah, without grouping.
Amazing.
Yeah, which is kind of a workaround, right, Morten? Maybe you can tell a little bit about that, but by the next release, it shouldn't be necessary.
Right. Okay, so what I'm referring to is that you do have the ability to do a completely custom crop of your screenshot, like how far out should it zoom? Should it be all the way? Should it be, and you can do that when you group something. So what the grouping does is that when you group a bunch of steps, it will combine all the hotspots, so all the red rectangles on the same screenshot, either for the first or the last image of the group. But you can, of course, also just group one step, and then you have the ability to completely customize the cropping. But as Joachim says, big gift from the next release. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that will be great. And here's a quick group.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, I'm just going to switch over to the just chatting because now we have a lot of questions, okay? One second.
Okay, nice.
A lot of stuff coming in. Let's see. All right, let me see, where are we? Okay, so this one from Tom regarding the translation. You have a problem when you translate the technical process and business terms, like how does it do them? Well, it just does the translation. We don't use Google, we use Bing for our translations. So it does translate whatever you input, that's what comes out, right? What does not get translated is inputs. So let's say I click in account name and I type the account name, what I want to call it. That does not get translated, right? Because that's considered a keyboard input. So if you want to translate that, you will need to in some cases. For example, if you have a process where you are searching, you go in the user interface and you search for sales orders and you click on sales orders, right? If I do it in German, I cannot search for sales orders anymore. I have to search for whatever the German word for that is. Yeah. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think that what Tom might be looking for as well is that if you do that individually, text by text, if you have a note that talks about some technical terms, if you don't have the context of what is that particular node actually inside, it's very difficult to get an accurate translation. That's correct, Tom. That is one of the caveats. We are doing sort of step-by-step translation. If you want to do something else, the right approach is basically to take out the nodes where you know that this is an issue, and then use one of the other translations options, which is type in your own translation, and those are kind of the options that we offer right now. It's a little better when you do the AI summary. So that should provide you with some context, and it might actually give you better translations also. So if you have access to the AI summary feature, you should get really good translations on those because they provide context inside the node itself. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, and what you can also do in the end is that once you've done your full translation, if you're unsure if it's accurate in the language you translated to because it's not your native tongue or whatever, you can export it as an Excel, and you can hand that Excel file to someone who does, and they can then correct the Excel file, send it back. They don't even need ClickLearn for this, and then you can just re-upload it and it will replace the translations for you. So that's also a thing you can do when you're about to be finalized, right? So, all right, let's do Yvonne here. Yvonne asks if anyone's using Synthesia or the AI avatars. I use it. I use it a lot, actually. I use it all the time, in both in my content in ClickLearn, in UXP especially, and I use it in my videos as well, right? So that the videos I create, I use, I don't use Synthesia, I use Colossian, but I could have used Synthesia as well. They're quite equal, in my opinion. But yeah, you can get some really cool and engaging content using that for sure.
We have a peer-to-peer spot on our community, right?
Yeah.
That's also a place that we want to drive people towards to have questions like this and have a discussion. Because I know it's one thing for us to say that we're using it, but it's probably really nice to hear from people in the call or people on the community as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Let's see. Christina. Let's see. The term books was something we used in ClickLearn Classic. In ClickLearn Attain, you have completely 100% flexibility on how you build your structure. So that's what you saw me doing on ClickLearn earlier when I was doing the segmentation and stuff. I can quickly re-show it. So when I'm in the structure editor here, your term book would be, for example, this sales segment, we call it. Then you can just drag and drop recording or even sub-segments in here if you wanted to. So if you want multiple levels, you can just drag one more in there. There we go. So now there is a subsection as well, right? And I can, of course, add my recordings into that if I please. So yeah, you can go as pretty much as deep as you want, but yeah, it can be a little bit, it's going to be a long breadcrumb in the end, right? If you do it a lot. You can disable the breadcrumbs too, if you please. Personally, I find it a little bit confusing without them, but you can do it. So yeah, that's what is meant by books, I believe. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and actually there's also, if we talk about real books, like PDF books, these segments also sort of published into a single PDF file. That's an option you have in publishing template as well, right?
Correct. Correct. Let me just show you. If that's, I think that's actually the only option you have if you go to PDF. That is to combine segments. Yeah. So for each segment, there will be a unique link for a PDF that contains all the recordings or all the content within that section in one long file, right? So, which is great for audits. It's like, give us your sales stuff. All right, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I think that's the last live question. There are some nice comments here, but I think it's the last question we have as such. Jenna, do you want to go on with, did you have more to show?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I was also going to talk a bit about some templating settings if we have time.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right. So I think on the theme of like quick wins you can do within the tool, I'm just going to go back over to our publishing settings here. And I'm kind of pointing this out because I know it's something a lot of people are aware of, but I do talk with quite a few customers who still have our like ClickLearn logo and colors in here on their published work, which I'm not really complaining about, but I know it's quite nice to have your content reflect your brand look and feel. And that's another thing that can be done at any point in time. So when your project's finished, you can just apply it. It will go retroactively to everything in the project, or you can do this at the beginning. But just simple changes in here, adding in your company logo, small things like this. And that's automatically going to be on everywhere in your portal, your content, as well as the like videos, Word, PDF, PowerPoint, and just a few small things. It doesn't take long, and you might have a marketing team at your disposal too that can make this even nicer. But there's a lot of functionality to control the design, and that's kind of what I think of when I hear the word template. But there are also a lot of other template settings in here. So not just about the fonts and the colors, but also about, you know, things like the screenshot size, which we saw, the playback speed of your video. So I definitely encourage you to come in here, poke around. There's a ton of stuff that you can customize. If you have something in mind and you've taken a look, you've tried out the universe session or module on templating, and you still aren't able to get what you want, that's definitely something our support team can help you out with, because there's some custom code you can do in here. There's also just a lot of things tucked away. Some of my top things to do in here are to do with like the video playback. I find, I have a lot of dialogue with customers over maybe they want the subtitles there or to disappear, the playback speed of the show me video, having it in fast mode, slower transitions, faster. There's a lot of things in here that you can apply to make it better fit what you think will be useful for your end users. And the reason that I thought to call this out today, if we had time, is just because these aren't always things that come to my mind when I think of the word template. I wouldn't necessarily think to look in this area for that. But it is all in here, and it's just one click for everything you will produce in the product, everything you have produced or created so far. So it's never too late to get this done. I know these things often feel like a big task, but it's really not. So just with a few clicks, you can have your videos all appearing in a different way, faster, slower, whatever you might like, and then have your custom fonts, colors, branding, all of that. So that was my quick call out here. I don't know if that is helpful for anybody, but if there's one person in here who's still using the ClickLearn colors in their company content, maybe this will be a little inspo for you.
Wonderful. Jen, I think that we are slowly reaching the end, and
Yes.
we didn't get through all the topics that we wanted to, and we obviously want to make sure that we drive this as good as we can in the future. So this will be a monthly returning event. I can promise you that. So any feedback you have in terms of features you want us to highlight and work in on, anything you want to change in the format, please let us know, and we'll be happy to take up your suggestions. Put it into chat. I can promise you that we have a team that will be reading through that and making sure that we get that across. I think that there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about today that's inside Universe as well, where there are modules in there that will get people started on some of the things that we have touched on today. And there's a lot of good advice there. And I also recommend looking at the product documentation. For those of you who haven't been in there for a while, it has been very much updated, and it will get even better. So in a little while, there'll be best practices in there, a lot of things that will help everyone get going. And then we will be engaging a lot more on the community side as well. Morten, do you have any closing remarks?
Nothing else, that I'm so happy that this could finally take place. It is everything I ever dreamed of with the engagement, and yeah, it's awesome. We're looking forward to having more of these, definitely.
Great. Yeah, so nice with all the questions coming in.
Yeah, definitely. Just quietly reading here, lots of good stuff coming. Awesome.
All right, we'll come back. We'll read through the chat. We're not going to stop the chat, so you're welcome to add in on the chat, and we will be reading through this and picking up topics for the next time, and we're going to announce that shortly, and then we'll get another session going for you in June, where you guys will get a chance to talk to us, and hopefully we can get more peers engaged in this. So thank you so much for the day, Morten. Thank you for hosting this.
Thank you.
And Jenna, thank you for joining us and showing us replay.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.